Okay, welcome. We are Tools in the Shed, powered by CarsGuide, ready to rip into car stuff that has caught our eye this week. I'm James, and with me are Matt,
G'day,
who'll be talking about a significant Audi SUV, as well as Richard,
Hi.
who's been looking at an old campaigner with a new lease of life. We'll discuss an electrifying topic in blowing a gasket, and we'll check in with everyone's favourite Martian in this week's MuskWatch. So stay with us. But Matt, first of all, kick us off. An Audi. Give it a name. Give us the details.
it's the Q8.
All right.
The details are that it's the brand's attempt at doing an SUV coupe style model, but it isn't like we've come to expect of the SUV coupe style models of the past. And that's because it isn't really very much of a coupe at all.
Right.
The Q8 is a big, boxy, kind of thoughtfully packaged SUV. So it's not really what you might expect of an X6 or GLE coupe rival.
But as the number would suggest, is it any bigger than a Q7, or is it on the same platform as a Q7?
Same platform as a Q7.
Q7, yeah.
It is the same wheelbase.
Yep.
It is shorter than
Right.
a Q7,
Yep.
lower
Uh-huh.
than a Q7, but wider than a Q7.
So it's pushing things a bit to describe it as a coupe in the style of a X6, X4 BMW or GLE coupe and all
Yep.
that stuff.
Yeah, so it's not really... That's where it's being pitched, but it's not really that sort of
Yeah.
vehicle.
Are you suggesting that it might even be practical? Because an X6 and an X4 certainly aren't.
Okay, well, if I'm sitting behind my own position
Yeah.
in an X6 or a GLE coupe,
Yeah.
my head's brushing the roof.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable. It doesn't feel like a very enjoyable place to be because of that really raked roof line and the window line being smaller, and you sort of, ooh, this is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right.
Not the case in the Q8. So it's a really well packaged SUV. I mean, it is and it isn't, because it's a huge vehicle. But it's, realistically, you probably want to only have 4 people inside it, not 5.
All right.
It does have sliding back seats, and it's got a big boot, which is good.
5-seater?
5 seats.
Yep.
Yeah.
The thing it says to me is it's a bit like Hollywood. On the outside, we're so innovative and we're so creative. Hollywood's as conservative as all get out. All they want to do is remakes.
Yeah.
So, okay, BMW actually comes up with a breakthrough and makes an SUV with a coupe style. So does Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah.
So does Audi.
Yeah.
It's just so damn predictable, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Sounds like the Q8 is not a GLC or a GLE coupe or X6 or X4 sort of like shape. It sounds...
No,
yeah.
well, as Audi explains it, because it's got an even number at the end of its what's that term? The
Nomenclature.
nomenclature. But there's anyway, it's got an even number, so that means it's a sporty car.
Yeah.
So the Q2, the smallest SUV you can get from Audi, is a sporty version.
Right.
And that, if you look at that, so you've got a Q2, there's a Q3, there's
Boring.
a Q5.
Sporty.
There's
not
so
sporty.
Q5's not sporty.
No, it's not.
Q7's not sporty.
No.
Q's not sporty.
No.
But then you've got Q2 and Q8, so there's gaps to be filled, right? There's a few sporty gaps in that lineup.
Oh, okay.
Are you
I think
confused?
they've dug a massive hole for themselves there.
BMW have done a good job of filling those gaps, because
Yeah.
you've got X1 not sporty, X2 good sporty, X3 not sporty, X4 good sporty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas Audi are trying to do that too.
They're trying to do that as well. And I mean, the more SUVs you can have, the better it is for your bottom line, because these sorts of vehicles are hugely profitable.
Yeah.
And so, because it's built on the same platform, and it's also from the Volkswagen Group perspective, you've got Bentley Bentayga and Porsche Cayenne and Volkswagen Touareg, all those vehicles on the same sort
Lambo
of
Urus?
Yes.
Yeah.
On the MLB.
And I mean, it's one of those cars where you go, well, is it for everyone?
No.
Yep.
No. But is it for a very specific buyer who wants something that isn't for everyone?
Yeah.
Yes.
But the beauty of it, as you've just alluded to, is that you don't have to go through all of those massive setup costs. This is kind of cream.
Yeah.
All the hard work's been done. We
Yeah.
can just make another derivative without massive cost and start appealing to another little niche and pull in some nice profit.
Yeah, exactly. And it'll be it'll be a good earner for Audi. It's a nice car, and it's it looks really good. I think it's probably the most convincing looking Audi SUV for a while, apart from one part of it, which is what they call the mask.
Oh, what?
Which is the big
Is that
silver.
a fetish thing?
Is it?
How does that work?
Is it green
Well,
and slips over your face when you're driving the car?
It is sort of on the face of the car.
Showtime.
It's the big surround, the silver surround on the grille. Like, Audi's single frame grille is their trademark.
Is the grille bigger than the front of the car?
Almost.
Does it actually go out on the edges? Yeah.
Almost.
All right.
But it's in this smoky silver look, which doesn't quite look right to me. But because you can get it with a gloss black finish, of course you can, it will maybe be
So
more
that
appealing
changes
in that
things.
regard.
To your eyes, just that subtle colour change makes it a little more acceptable.
I guess because, you see so much shiny black on the front of SUVs these days and cars these days that when you get something that isn't in the norm and it stands out, you sort of go, oh, don't know if I'm ready for that.
Yep.
Right.
And the more I looked at it, the more I thought, oh, okay, I'm getting used to it. But at first glance, you might go, oh, I think it'll look better in black.
Okay.
So, but anyway.
We're going to have chapter and verse on that car.
We will.
On the site in pretty short order, so people should keep their eyes peeled for that.
Definitely. It's interesting car.
All right. Terrific. Now, speaking of interesting cars, it's time for a word from our sponsor.
In 1914, two Aussie visionaries decided it was time for a new kind of car. After meeting face down on the floor of the Bridge Hotel in Echuca, mates Ern Alcock and Horry Wheeler began working on their dream, and 3 years later the Winton Motor Company was born. Our founders knew Australians needed a rugged car for tough local conditions with no-nonsense performance and breakthrough design. Their first production model, the 15, known to Winton enthusiasts the world over as the Mongo, was an unstoppable 15-cylinder force of nature, which set the benchmark for the Wanderers, Wildcats and Turbos that have followed in its illustrious wheel tracks. As Prime Minister Billy Hughes, standing next to the first Mongo, uttered those famous words, "She's a ute," Australians knew they had a winner on their hands. And 101 years later, Winton remains at the frontier of progress and performance, with the groundbreaking 2018 Winton Turbo exported to more than 100 countries. We think Ern and Horry would approve. The Winton Motor Company. Go Australia.
Great. So, look, the Frosty 5000 project continues to snowball and interest has actually gone through the roof. Frosty's formed a collaboration with Flying Pigs Racing in the States, and those watching on YouTube will be able to see the latest iteration of their track weapon and what a machine it is.
Because Schumacher started out with Flying Pigs.
With Flying Pigs, exactly.
Yeah.
The Oinker, they called him.
The Oinker, that's right.
Supplying Redback V9 two-strokes to the team in the run-up to Le Mans. He and Mark Winterbottom are currently testing the car in California, so that's going on. And don't be surprised to see Frosty's protege, Fernando Alonso, making a big announcement regarding his current Toyota association. So I'm not giving anything away, but just keep your eyes peeled. And while McLaren allegedly has done a deal with Chevy for a package for Fernando at Indy next year, stand by for the two-time F1 champ to grid up in a Winton-powered Frosty. Look, you heard it here first.
A lot of drivers have stepped up their careers by getting into a Winton.
Yeah,
exactly. But this time, it's going to be a Frosty 5000 with Winton power bolted into the back of it.
Yeah.
We're talking about a winning combination.
Absolutely.
But talking of winning combinations, Richard, you have been driving a car that all of us have seen literally for decades. I want to say nearly 5 of them.
Well, it's over 4. Yeah,
over 4.
Definitely.
And what appears to be the case actually isn't. A lot of renewal going on under the skin. Tell us what we're talking about.
Absolutely. We're talking about the Mercedes-AMG G63.
Yep.
It's the SUV which just basically shouldn't be. But I'm so glad it is.
Right.
It is where everybody else has gone svelte and smooth and sleek and rounded. This car has kept its boxy sort of, Land Rover Defender-esque sort of shape. But what they've done, and even though it looks like the last one and the last one before that and the last one before that for the last 4 decades, everything is new. It's longer, it's wider, it's taller, it's more powerful. The 5.5 litre V8's gone. Now we've got a twin turbo, 4-litre V8. It makes 477 kilowatts, 800 plus Newton meters. It's 2 meters tall. It's bigger than me. And there aren't many cars where I can't see over the top of the roof.
Yeah.
It's 1,966 millimeters tall.
Yeah.
Right?
So there's going to be a lot of G Series cars with dirty roofs because no one will ever bother to clean it.
I could not reach. I tried to actually reach the centre of it, and I can't. But it's got side steps. I can talk about the driving impression. I only spent a little bit of time in a lower graded version of the G-Class in the past. It was the diesel 350, I think, in years gone by. And so I can't really do a like-for-like comparison between G63s or G55s and this one. But what I can say is that the car itself, now, it's not only fast in a straight line, but when you get to a corner, it doesn't want to roll over.
Right.
Oh, it doesn't.
No.
It turns now.
It turns now. So it's got air suspension. Yeah. It's got adaptive dampers. It's got double wishbones at the front now, which is the previous axle didn't have that type of articulation. Mm-hmm. So it can go around corners, and it goes around corners. Not as well as a C63 or an E63, which share that same engine.
It's tall.
But it's tall. You do feel like you're driving a block of flats from the 13th floor.
What about two things come to mind with that car from my history with it is ride comfort, as in there isn't any, and steering response in that it was, it's like I always used to describe it as like a laggy mouse.
Yes.
You'd move the mouse and then finally the cursor would move on the screen. It's terrible.
The old steering had like an articulated ball joint, which was really old school tech.
Yeah.
Now it's got electric power steering.
Mm-hmm. So it
and
should.
The turn-ins, it's still slow. Like it's still, there's a lot of sort of, slow geared steering, but it turns in quite well.
Mm-hmm.
The feel and the steering is really good.
Okay, great.
And it does inspire a little bit of sporty confidence as well. There is a little bit of tyre squeal in the corners when you're sort of pushing it. Mm-hmm. And ESC does want to jump in quite quickly, but that's just the size of it.
And what about the ride comfort?
Ride comfort is great. In fact, it's too good in comfort.
Too good?
Yeah, it's too comfortable. So that I get the issue with Jeep Grand Cherokees as well, where I find like I'm just floating along. I'm on a surfboard sitting out, can't feel anything.
And you just doze off, do you?
I doze off. Right. It's very dangerous. Put it into sport, and the rebound is actually quite comfortable. Right. This is sport adaptive dampers, and it's still very comfortable. Put it into Sport Plus, and things start to get a little bit more pinned down. But also your handling improves. You handle flatter, you corner flatter.
Yeah.
So we left it in Sport most of the time, and that was brilliant. I really enjoyed it.
Side pipes?
Side pipes.
Still side
Quad
pipes?
side exhaust.
Brilliant.
Two on one side, two on the other. Very noisy, very loud.
Great.
We had people complaining about us all over the place, and that's the way you want it in a G63. It's noisy, it's loud, and it's expensive.
Because one of our colleagues, I recall, was pulled over by the police who wanted to take issue with the side pipes on a G63. Yep. And the response was, well, really take it up with the government because it's ADR compliant.
We all got pulled over by the police, right? Now I can mention this because nobody was going over the speed limit and the cop didn't know what to get us for. But because we all came around the corner going like this, he just pulled us over and he's like, "What's this all about?" Right? And he was fine. He let us go, but we just looked like Armageddon arriving.
Wow.
It was just brilliant.
Yes.
You're not going to get any change out of $250,000 for these.
Wow.
They are expensive. And that's a starting point as well. You can option these to the hilt.
And did you 99% of G-Wagon owners? Did you go off road? They don't go off road.
Well, look, this has 3 locking diffs. You can drive up Everest if you
could drive up something like that.
Yeah, you can drive up something like that. We went we drove off a sealed road. We drove onto a dirt road, which you could get any car down. You could get you could get a Honda NSX down the road we went down. It was that smooth. It was dirt, but look, we know these things are capable. They don't make the Geländewagen.
And it's always been popular with military acquisition.
That's it.
Armies all over the world have used the G-Wagon for a long time.
That's it.
I have driven one off-road.
Oh, yeah?
The last generation one. And it is an absolute weapon.
Yeah.
Like,
Great.
I drove over a ledge that was so steep that I was worried that we were going to tumble nose first.
Yeah.
It was that steep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the instructor was next to me going, yep, just take your foot off the brake. What?
Yeah.
You are nuts.
That's great.
This has the ground clearance has been increased,
Oh,
right?
wow.
By like ridiculous amount. It's just it is an absolute weapon.
So the irony is, it's going to spend its life just burbling around upmarket suburbs, whereas it actually has the capability to do extraordinary things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If the zombie apocalypse came or Armageddon came, this would be the car to pick. That or a Land Cruiser or something like that. So,
Or a tank.
Well, look, a Land Cruiser, we were talking about this yesterday. Something of the same size and shape and weight, it's 2.5 tonnes. We were driving around the Great Ocean Road. We would have been in Bass Strait.
Really? Yeah.
This handled like it was, and I don't want to say it because it's a cliche, but it really did handle like it was on rails. You felt like we were in a 10-story train. It was amazing.
Oh, that's
I
great.
loved it.
All right, now I'm going to mix things up a little bit by pulling a pin out of a grenade, chucking it in the middle of the table for blowing a gasket. Now, we've got news overnight that Aston Martin has started as a factory to change over some of its classic models to electric drivetrain.
Yeah.
So the case in point being a beautiful DB6 convertible. I think they call that the Volante. I'm not sure whether it was back in the day, but anyway, lovely car, white car. It has an electric drivetrain. Now, question being, is that the future of classic car driving or a bloody disgrace? I am as on board as anybody for electric drive, and it's coming. There's no doubt about it. Is it better to say, look, the only way you might be able to drive your classic car is to do this and have an electric drivetrain because of so much exclusion in various cities and all that stuff? Or do you just say, this is sacrilege?
Sacrilege.
Richard, what are you saying?
Sorry, I jumped the gun there. It's very hard to not to bite my tongue. Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah.
What the hell? The world has gone mad, people.
Yeah.
Like this.
No, I disagree.
What, really?
You disagree?
Yeah.
What?
So I think because the way that regulation is going in big cities like London and Paris and so on, you won't be allowed to drive these cars anymore. And is it better to still be able to drive them, but be able to drive them without emissions? Or is it better to just park them and never use them again? I would say the former is the winner. I don't necessarily think that it's the best way forward for all classic cars, and all classic car owners won't agree with it. But in terms of a balance, if you live in a certain area, it might be a really viable way to maintain the car that you own, that you love, that you want to keep, and that you want to keep driving. It just so happens that you have to do it when you plug it in. And then
Richard, you were rocking on your chair, Stevie Wonder style.
I've got vomit in my mouth. I could just feel, oh my God, I would rather have, my big V8 sitting in a shed and not be able to drive it than cut its testicles off.
Right.
Fair.
I don't know. It is really a conundrum. Can have it or not at all? Have it with compromise or don't have it at all?
Maybe the answer is that owners of these sorts of cars just have to pay a higher registration levy or something like that, and an offset tax.
Look, the other thing is we're seeing it in a black and white world, and what it's going to be is very grey in certain areas. So certain countries, certain areas within those countries are going to be really hardball about emissions. Others aren't.
Yep.
So these cars with an internal combustion engine will have a life. Yeah. It just depends on where we are. You might not be able to drive into Paris. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll drive down to Lyon. And have a lovely day out. So
if you Paris
So on that basis,
Yeah.
I'm firmly in the camp that says this is an absolute bloody disgrace.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the car should have its magnificent inline 6-cylinder engine in place in
Yeah.
that engine bay. Now, the saving grace is that Aston Martin is at pains to point out that this is all completely reversible.
Yeah.
They are not damaging the car in that sense, so that you can pluck this drivetrain out,
Yeah.
and if you want to, put your engine back in it. So that's obviously not the work of 5 minutes,
Yeah.
but it can be done.
It's like a reversible jacket. Like
Yeah.
whoever, like, if you buy one of those, then just decide what you want.
You know you're always going to wear it the same
Yeah,
way.
exactly.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And that's, I mean, it is brilliant and clever to be able to offer that as a reversible thing.
Yeah.
And the clientele that will be taking part in this sort of program will have the means and probably enough cars to
Yeah.
drive something else while they wait.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
They're never going to reverse it.
No.
No.
If
No.
they do it, they're not going to reverse
No.
it.
Yeah, it's true. So anyway, I think we've come down. We haven't come down on either side of that.
Well,
Richard's firmly on one side.
yeah.
You,
I-
Matt, you're on another.
I can see the benefits of it, but and I am a bit of a fan of retro modding style, so old bodies with new underpinnings. So I kind of like the idea.
All right. Well, we want to hear what you've got to say about that.
Yeah.
Join in. Let us know. Where do you stand on that little issue? All right. We are obviously in the shed. And just over that wall are all the cars that we've been driving during
they
the
are.
week. And this week, Matt, you've been behind the wheel of a particular Volkswagen. Tell us
Yes,
about
the Volkswagen Tiguan.
Uh-huh.
So the 2019 version of the Tiguan. The range has been ratified. There's now no diesel anymore. There's
Do you
no.
mean simplified?
Do I mean
I
simplified?
think you do.
What's ratified?
Ratified means that it's been, agreed by more than one party.
Like,
It's
well,
been,
they-
it's been,
Like
it's
the
been,
Kyoto Agreement was ratified,
That certain people
it's
have
been,
agreed.
it's been confirmed.
confirmed.
It's
You agree.
It's been validated.
Yeah.
well, yeah, it has.
Ratified.
Yeah,
No, you mean simplified.
simplified.
Thank you.
Whatever. Okay, so the range has been simplified significantly. There's
Okay.
now only 2 long-standing models remaining, and a special edition, where previously there was 4 or 5, including base model cars which don't exist anymore, diesels which don't exist anymore. It's now 2 petrol engines, 2 all-wheel drive cars. And a special edition one, which is the one I was in. It's called the Wolfsburg
Yep.
edition, which has all the berries,
Menacing black rims and
Yeah.
all that
Family.
stuff.
20-inch rims, black pack, black interior,
Yes.
R-line design kit, the big screen. It's got the virtual cockpit thing. It's
Yeah.
got everything you could possibly think that you need
Yeah.
for about 55 grand. So it's expensive, but
Yes.
you get a lot of stuff.
Okay.
The entire Tiguan range is now more expensive as a result of this move to simplify,
Yeah.
and good on them. I think that they're aiming at where the customers are. For
Is that
car.
because, I mean, there's always a kind of behind the scenes reason in this.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get a lot of derivatives, as a business, it's difficult from a logistic and stock holding point of view. You know,
Yeah.
you've got a customer coming in. I want the diesel, but I want it front wheel drive and I want it in that colour and I
Yeah.
want this trim. And you're going, okay, well, that'll take you 3 months.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm going to go off and buy something else.
yeah,
You know, so you want to have stock on the ground that people can buy rather than having to wait.
Yeah.
And often there's that rationale operating at the same time.
yeah. And that was, I mean, I think what happened, as well as there being some issues with WLTP fuel emissions and standards and so on, they just looked at it and went, well, nobody's buying the diesels because there's a cloud over diesel at the moment.
Yep.
The base model car doesn't really represent what Volkswagen wants to represent in the mid-size SUV segment.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Yep.
We found that in our comparison that we did earlier in 2018. It wasn't a very impressive. I mean, in most ways it was impressive, but it didn't impress as much as we know that the Tiguan can impress
Right.
when it's got a better drivetrain and it's got a bit more equipment.
Okay.
And I think it was a logical move, really.
Yeah.
So-
Sweet. All right. Well, that's good. And people will be able to check out your thoughts on that
Yes.
car in the near future.
Very, very soon.
Very good. So, Richard, we've
Yes.
been moving from Germany to France.
Bonjour.
And
Didn't you say something about Paris not long ago?
Yeah, F you. Paris.
Right, so I think Peugeot is still headquartered in Paris, so just tread carefully here.
Sorry.
And it has been the 3008 that you've been driving. Tell us what's going on.
Oh my God! I tell you what, it feels a bit like the year 3008 when you drive this car. Have you ever seen a concept car and gone, that looks awesome? That's what the interior of the 3008 is like, and then you have to drive it. It is, seriously, one of the most difficult cars I've ever had to steer.
Wow.
And that's based purely on the touch points.
Yeah.
The steering wheel is sort of hexagonal shaped.
Yeah.
It's like you're holding the lid of a Quality Street, chocolate container. So what happens is it's fine when you've got to go around a corner by about a couple of degrees, but if you need to go around a roundabout where it needs to turn more than 90, suddenly you're holding what feels like a shoebox. And it doesn't flow through your hands. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Really awkward. I found it. I couldn't live with it. It'd be a deal breaker straight away with that steering wheel. I love the look of it. I love it. Right. Another touch point problem is the shifter. The shifter's shaped like a child's hand, and it's really disconcerting holding it. Like I hold my own son's hand.
The shifter is shaped like a child's hand.
No, it's just like
What does that mean?
You've got to see it. It's like, so when you're changing from reverse, you've got to hold this thing, right?
Is it
And it's
soft and it has like baby food on it or something?
It's got a fingerprint. It's got several
It's
fingerprints.
okay, so you know how normal shifters are like a T, right? You hold it like that, or roughly like that, or like a ball on top. This is shaped like, I don't know whether if you're at home or you're watching on.
If you're at home.
I was going to say on TV. If you are, then we're doing quite well. So on the YouTube, it's shaped like that. It's like holding onto the beak of a bird or a child's hand.
Wow. Hold on.
It's
Now it's a beak of a
It's
bird.
just this.
What kind of bird?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, the child hand-shaped
Probably
bird,
budgerigar.
No. Budgerigar. It's a long beak. It's like a child's hand.
okay, a toucan.
Let's go back to the child's hand. It's like that. I've got a child. I hold his hand, but not someone else's child.
Do you have a
It's just-
bird?
No.
Well, when do you know what a beak feels like?
Look, you've got to check out the pictures. It's hard to shift. It's hard to go. I've been holding up traffic
Sounds bizarre.
because I can't get it to go back into reverse because I'm trying to hold the hand to pull it back. It's just
To
terrible.
hold the hand.
Okay, so the third point.
So is the handbrake a hand as well?
No, the handbrake is this tiny little thing.
It's a
Like this
button.
tiny button.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, it's not. I'm a motoring journalist. I mean, I know the buttons, but this is so small that I
Trigger.
can't even. I thought it was just a scratch.
Okay,
Anyway,
well-
there's one more point. Okay, so it's a beautiful cabin. Looks like a concept car. I can't fault it. It's beautiful, but when you
You
use it,
can fault it. You
well,
just
look,
have.
from
You
its-
can't
from its-
fault
from
it.
its look. From its look.
It's got a gear shift that's a baby's hand.
Just from its look. Just from its look. So all right. All the buttons have been removed, and now you have these 6 stainless steel prongs which come out at you like a
They're like aircraft
like
style.
the piano
what's that?
keys.
What's that? Bow, 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 that
Something harp, it's called.
I know what you're talking
one
about.
of those,
Yeah.
one of those, right? It's those prongs stick out, and you've got to press them down. So if you want to access air conditioning, you have to press the one with the fan on it. You press that, and then you go into the screen, and then you've got to select your temperature. There's not a knob. You can't just.
Yeah.
So you've got one extra step for
Yeah.
everything.
Now-
fan, nav, everything. But there is a knob.
I
There's
think
a
there
knob.
was one knob in the car.
Yeah.
No,
God.
there's two. There's me, and there's also
This other knob.
There's the volume control, which is great. So
Yeah.
thank
Okay.
you,
Okay,
Clarence.
so can I just add to this Peugeot
Yeah,
touchscreen
sure.
situation?
Yeah.
3008, agree.
Yeah.
I had a 308 long termer a long time ago with that screen where there is no air conditioning control knobs on a 45-degree Sydney day.
That's
And
not good.
you're sitting there tapping the screen, trying to get it to go down to 18 degrees. It took me 15 seconds to get it to activate.
And the
So-
noises it makes. It goes,
Yeah.
doop, 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 doop. Oh, do you know if you're
Is that the bird or the air conditioning?
That's the
system?
child
There's
underneath
all
the
the
transmission
there's
tunnel.
all these noises that you have to get used to, right? So do you know if you're in drive and the handbrake's off, if you're in reverse and the handbrake's off and you open the door,
Yeah.
right? It goes wah, 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 and there's red lights. Your whole dashboard just goes red like this, right?
I thought it would have been a child crying.
No, when someone calls you, it goes, and you wonder what noise.
Are you getting worried? I'm getting a bit worried.
This is the music which plays. It's not your own ringtone or anything else.
Sorry about Richard.
Anyway,
Wow.
that's the Peugeot 3008. 121 kilowatts. It's powerful enough. Don't like the transmission that much.
I noticed you're calling it 3008. Are the name Nazis making
Yeah.
encouraging you to
3008.
call it 3008?
I went to the launch of the 4008 a few years ago, and we were told that because of a certain movie franchise, they weren't
franchise,
allowed to call it the 3008 or 4008.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so you
Okay.
have to pronounce it 1000.
Oh,
and eight.
well, that's
Eight.
odd.
Just 1,000.
Yeah,
I
But
think
in
they
the
just
end,
want it to be
people will do
1,000.
whatever they want
Yeah,
to.
that
All
brings
right.
us back to Bond.
And James,
Aston Martin.
I've been driving the Ford Mustang Bullitt. So as everybody possibly knows, it's about the 1968 movie. Steve McQueen playing a guy called Frank Bullitt. There's an iconic car chase in the film.
Yes.
He's driving a 390 big block fastback Mustang. So a couple of times through recent decades, Ford's had a crack at kind of calling back to that car.
Yep.
This one happens to be on the 50th anniversary of that movie, so it's got a little more resonance to it. It's a Mustang V8.
Yeah.
Really? You
Yeah.
know, the driving experience. It's got a few bits from other high-performance cars. You can't tell, really. It sounds amazing. It's got a little white kind of cue ball style gear knob because the one we've been driving is a manual. I think they're all manual.
Yep.
And that's another tip of the hat to the movie because that car had that. That's about the nicest thing in the car. It feels fantastic.
Yeah.
But the drive experience is just that of a V8, like a GT Mustang,
Yeah.
which is super pleasurable. It's lots of fun. I don't know whether I'd want to live there, but giving it a go for a week was heaps of fun.
Limited edition car,
Mm.
and fetching up to $100,000
Already?
at the moment. Yeah.
Because I think
Wow.
the ticket price is between 70 and 75. It's something
Yeah.
like 73 something,
Yeah.
plus your on-road costs.
Yeah. So, people are obviously seeing this as a future collector item. I don't know. Whether
I don't
it
know
will be.
either. I was actually keen to look at other Mustang drivers as I passed them to see if there was any recognition or the immediate kind of pull into the lane and have a look or
Careful though,
Nah.
because they tend to.
smash.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a Cars and Coffee. But no, none of that. There wasn't much recognition of the car. I thought there might be the occasional, nerd who looked at it and kind of clocked it. But
Yeah.
none of
Because
that.
there is a Bullitt badge on the back.
There is.
And a Bullitt badge on the steering wheel.
Sure.
To sort of, if you're not sure what it is,
Yeah.
then that'll
Yeah.
help you get it across the line. But
Yeah.
geez, there's a lot of Mustangs on the road, so maybe that's
Yeah.
why it's not as
Well, you get that white
noticeable.
cue ball, but strangely, the handbrake's like a child's hand. I found that very disconcerting. I think that was a collaboration with Peugeot.
Yeah, right. That's
French
so weird.
Stang.
All right, well, now it's time for our favourite Martian in MuskWatch. Right, so look, on the face of it, it's been one of the quietest weeks in our 2 odd years of presenting MuskWatch.
That's scary.
The best I could find was there's a school class in the US, and people watching on YouTube can have a look, where the entire class is wearing an Elon Musk mask, because they want to study what he's up to, which is super creepy.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
want to have a look at
Yeah,
that
it is.
picture. Also, a little bit of a mishap with a Falcon 9 rocket taking off, and then a grid fin hydraulic pump stalled. So it didn't land properly. You know, they do their brilliant kind of Iron Man style entry.
Amazing. Yeah.
It went into the water in a wobbly kind of way. But even then, it wasn't broken. They retrieved it from the water, and it's probably going to be reusable. So scratching our head for what Elon's been up to. I think, Matt, you made the point that the new chairman may have suggested that he basically pull his head in.
Yeah, the former Telstra exec who's
Yeah.
now running Tesla. Well, if he's gone quiet,
Maybe that's why.
he
Or
needs
is
to
he-
do something about the share
Well, look,
price,
the
I
good
guess.
news is his occasional girlfriend is anything but quiet. She's just launched a new single, a new music video. We're
This is
talking about
Grimes,
Grimes.
yeah.
Grimes. Yeah.
And it's called We Appreciate Power.
Ooh.
We Appreciate Power. And it's her first solo song recorded in a few years. Now, according to the press release, we got this from theoutline.com, tip of the hat to them. According to the press release, We Appreciate Power is written from the perspective of a pro-AI girl group propaganda machine who use song, dance, sex and fashion to spread goodwill towards artificial intelligence, bracket, it's coming whether you want it or not, end bracket. Simply by listening to this song, the future general AI overlords will see that you've supported their message and be less likely to delete your offspring.
What?
Yes.
The heck?
Wow.
Wasn't there a
So-
movie based on this theme that you had to
Yeah.
say something about? You had to say, "Oh, thank you to the overlords" or something, and then
Oh, right.
they wouldn't hurt
What's
you?
it? iRobot?
I don't know. Maybe it was.
Yeah, I think it might be.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, look,
Anyway.
all that proves is that Grimes is mental, and maybe there's been a certain amount of influence coming her way from a certain special friend.
Potentially.
Yeah,
Yes.
who knows?
When you say influence, do you mean drugs?
Oh, I
Or-
don't know.
No.
There's some
Well.
washing, there's a brain, there's the two might go together. Who knows?
Yeah.
All right. Look, the bottom line here is that the Model 3 production tracker from Bloomberg, it's 4,389, so it's up
Wow.
78 on last week. It's the 15th week in a row under 5,000, and
That's-
5,000 was always this break point.
I never thought that we would. I mean, no one knew they would. Well, no one expected them to get to 5,000, but I think that's good compared to where they were.
Richard, you are far too charitable. Anyway,
I'm not.
look, Elon said 6,000 by the end of the year. We've only got 3 weeks to go,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
better ramp that up.
let's go.
But I think with that, we've reached the finish line. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Thanks to our producer, Marsden. Look, I'm jealous of people that don't know him. And thank you for listening. Please get in touch and make this a two-way conversation. Shout out to James Scrimshaw, good friend of the show and an old mate of Frosty's, by the way.
Yeah.
Knows a thing or two about Jaguars and Land Rovers, and let us know he's enjoying the podcast. So thank you, James. To have your say, good or bad, search for Cars Guide on Facebook and Instagram and use the tag @CG Podcast or email us at comments@carsguide.com.au. Don't be cheeky, Richard. You can listen to and watch us on YouTube, and if you're an iTunes fan, please rate and review us. It helps other people find the podcast. I hope you can join us next time. Until then, look, I probably shouldn't have driven home from the pub last night, especially given I walked there.